So I was sitting in the front row when Joe Rathburn asked about the dads in the group. So who are the dads in the group? Raise your hand. Look at you guys. And granddads? We got granddads? Yay. We have any great-granddads? Yay. Oh my gosh, look at that. I love it. Okay, so here's where it gets more and more inclusive. Okay, we have step-granddad, we have stepdads. Do we have stepdads? Yeah, okay, see? Oh my gosh, look at this. And foster dads? Any foster dads in the group? Yes, okay, I see hands up. Moms as dads. Do we have moms as dads? Oh yeah, see, a whole bunch of moms as dads. Okay, I mean, it's like this is where we go with this. What about, okay, anybody ever had an idea? Oh, come on, all of your hands should be up. You had an idea, if you had an idea any time during your life, that's what we're talking about, that father energy. That is, that divine masculine energy. That's the thought, you know. When Ernest Holmes made that teaching symbol, the seed, the soil, the plant, that seed, that volition, that original thought that gets it planted into the receptive medium, the divine feminine, and then what happens at the point of the V, right? You plant, seed, soil, plant. You have something in manifestation. So that thought, that's the divine masculine energy. That's what we're talking about. We have all of it in you know, all of that and all of the feminine and everything. So everybody's hand should be up. You've always had wonderful and fabulous ideas. We're both and, right? We're both and. We contain all of what spirit is. What is it, the whole, you know, we're not the whole ocean, but we're the drop of ocean water. It contains everything that the ocean is. Marceline de Bordes, I don't know French really well. Marceline de Bordes Valmore said this. She said, "Are we not like 2 volumes of one book?" Isn't that lovely? And that's what today's talk is, 2 volumes, 1 book. Are we not 2 volumes of 1 book? And of course we are. We are a blend of the divine feminine energy and the divine masculine energy, and it all works so perfectly together when it's balanced. It all works so perfectly together when it's balanced. The feminine, intuitive, the nurturing in relationship to the receptive. And then all men and women have that. And then you have the masculine, analytical and assertive and linear and active. And all men and women have that. Just like we talked about in Mother's Day. These are principles of spirit. And we contain all of it. We discussed the feminine energy of Mother's Day, the energy of intuition, of relationship, of going circular and deeper into things, going within, that spiraling energy. It's receptive, and that's why Ernest Holmes had it in that middle part of the teaching symbol. The divine masculine is the energy of the archetypal hero's journey, right? It's more linear. It's active. It's the thing that goes out and makes those decisions and does the stuff. This is the hero's journey of Joseph Campbell's book, The Hero of a Thousand Faces. That masculine energy is the hero in that story. You know, there are 3 parts to that monomyth. There is the separation, the initiation, and the return. The hero gets called to the adventure. The hero gets called to do that thing. He strikes out and finds the pearl of great price. He discovers that. He undergoes this incredible transformation during his path, during his quest. And then he returns to the benefit of the group, doesn't he? That's the hero's journey. And we've heard it over and over and over. It's almost like we only have so many stories in us. We keep retelling the same thing. But that is the story of the divine masculine energy. That's it. And that same story is told over and over. Think about this for a second. Think about all the movies that we've seen that all tell the same exact story. They all tell the story of the hero's journey. You have Star Wars. That was a big one, right? Star Wars. Lord of the Rings. What else? The Matrix. The Never-Ending Story. The Hobbit. The Princess Bride. I love that. Spider-Man, The Wizard of Oz. It's all the same story. It is the story of that masculine energy that is within us. And our challenge is to balance those 2 energies. Our challenge is to take those 2 volumes and make one balanced book within us. And that's what we do. In the Eastern symbol, the yin and yang, same thing. Balancing the feminine and the masculine energies. And we have to think about it as complementary energies, not opposing energies. They're not opposing, they're complementary. We are multifaceted individuals, are we not? Like a diamond. We are multifaceted individuals, and these energies simply represent a facet of the magnificent diamond that we are. Even if those energies seem to be in opposition, they are not. Ernest Holmes said this. He said, "To say there is one life and that life is God, and that life is my life now, is to speak truth. To say there is one mind and that mind is the mind of God, and that mind is my mind now, is to speak truth. For each of us is an individual personality in the infinite and perfect mind." Yes. Each of us is a personality in that infinite mind. And however, that personality is expressed in limitless ways. Look around you. There are no two people alike, right? There's 7.5 billion of us on the planet, and no two alike. That personality of spirit is expressed in infinitely diverse ways. And so we are those incredible diamonds, those jewels with facets, and we express individually as ourselves, right? The divine masculine, the divine feminine, the sad, the happy, the active, the passive, feminine, masculine, everything exists along the continuum. 2 volumes, 1 book, 2 volumes, 1 book. There is unity behind the sense of duality or multiplicity of all things, even the apparent opposites. Everything in our lives exists along this continuum, yes? There are qualities of God. There are only qualities of God. That's all we can ever be. We're an activity of spirit. We're a place where spirit is showing up in a form and having an experience. Are you giving God a good time today? You know, we are a place where God is happening. So all of the qualities of God are qualities of us. Abundance and balance and beauty and freedom and joy and order and peace and power and love and unity and wisdom and wholeness. All of those qualities of God are qualities of us. They're not those qualities and their opposites. They exist on a continuum. We are only those qualities. We call the least amount of that quality something else, but it's not. We call the least amount of abundance we can possibly demonstrate, we call that lack. But it's not something else. It's still a quality of God. We're just not demonstrating hardly any of it. We exist along a continuum. We are only those things. We are only those qualities of God. And we accept and we demonstrate them to the ability that we can embody them and manifest them in our lives. So no duality actually exists. It's not love and hate. It's love on a continuum. All we can do is add more and more and more and more and more to it. We call the least amount of it demonstrating. We call that hate. But it's love on a continuum. That is all we can ever be, are the qualities of God on a continuum. Back me up on this sound, guys, right? You can only add things to it. There is no negative on there. It's a sliding scale. That's all it is. It's a sliding scale. It's the continuum. We exist on a continuum of all of the qualities of God, and we express as much or as little of them as we can embody and demonstrate. So no duality actually exists. There is not two. There is only one. We can talk about their qualities, divine feminine and divine masculine, but they're only God energies. They're only one. Behind what we call them, behind the words we use to differentiate, there is only the one. Wisdom exists as a continuum, right? The wisdom of God is the mind of God exists on a continuum. But the least amount of wisdom we call ignorance. But it's just the smallest amount of wisdom demonstrating. And these extremes show up, don't they? They show up around us. They show up as our shadow nature a lot of times. Really, isn't that what the shadow is? But the smallest amount of those qualities of God, and we call them something else. Those things that we resist, those things that we push away. We deny them in ourselves, but we see them out there in other people. That's the shadow side. That is the smallest amount of a quality of God. And we call it something opposite of what we call the quality. And we see it in other people, maybe the things, the shadow side that we don't see in ourselves. Last week, we were also raw. When we came here Sunday morning, the Orlando shooting had just happened. And many of us found out about it here in this room. And we didn't even have the time to process it, and we were grieving and we were sad and we were emotional. And like those stages in Elizabeth Kubler-Ross's book, we went through all those stages of grief, we probably went through them right here in this room. We were also sad and grief-stricken and emotionally overwhelmed and in denial and in pain. And I went through all of it. It was like a big jumble, too, just like everybody in this room did, depression and sadness and grief, and it was overwhelming. And we keep going through that. And then I got to the I'm pissed part, And we have to go through that, too, because I really was. We were looking at the shadow side, rearing its ugly head. That's what we were looking. Talk about 2 volumes, 1 book, right? We have the shadow nature and we have our active nature. And we were looking at those unconscious, rejected, unowned aspects of our own nature being projected out onto others for condemnation and for destruction. And that's what we were looking at. We were looking at that uncontrolled, out of control shadow nature. That's why it's so important to understand it and to bring it out to the light and to transform it. Because it can wreak havoc in our world if the shadow nature is not understood and transformed. Deepak Chopra said this. He said, denial is when you ignore the shadow. Disaster is when you surrender to it. And that's what we saw, isn't it? We saw that in Orlando. We are conscious and unconscious. We have consciousness, and we know our qualities of God, and we know who we are, and we have the unconscious. We have that shadow nature. All of us do. It's all there. The brighter the light, the darker the shadow, yes? We can see it better. Our basic nature and our shadow nature, and both exist within us. And we seek to bring to the light those aspects of us so that we can transform them. Just like we do the feminine and the masculine volumes that we bring into balance, we have our active nature and our shadow nature, and we must bring that into balance also. We're not going to obliterate it. We're not going to eliminate it. We transform it. We allow it to become useful to us. Again, 2 volumes, 1 book. And we can see this happening, acting out on the national stage, too. We have a collective shadow, don't we, in this country? And you know his name. Donald Trump is acting out of the shadow. He's acting out as the collective shadow, saying things out loud that people would only think about in their minds. Never say out loud. All those things that people type anonymously and they throw out on the internet. My God, you would never say some of those things to the people in front of you, but you feel free to say them on the internet because they're anonymous. Saying those outrageous and unacceptable and racist and sexist things, and some people are cheering because somebody let out their shadow side. All of the things that good and gentle people don't do. Cheering his vulgarity and his ignorance and his racism and his insults. All the while, he'll lean over to the audience and he'll wink and he'll smile and he'll say, isn't that fun? Isn't it fun to be bad? Isn't it fun? And it hits and it appeals to the shadow nature in us. Isn't it fun to be bad? Just for a couple of minutes. You can get it out. You can slug the guy next to you because you don't like what he said. Right? We can do that. It's like he gives permission for people to free their shadow side. And that's what we're seeing on the national. He gives his audience the freedom to just release the shadow side. It's like toothpaste. Once it's out, you can't put it back in the tube. You can't put it back in the tube. We can only transform it. And that's what we're doing. That's the seduction of the shadow side. Let it out. Let it go wild. Be given permission. That's where the mob mentality comes from. Right? People will do things in a mob of people they would never, ever, ever do on their own. That's the shadow side. That's the shadow nature. That's the seduction of the shadow side. You remember the story of Pinocchio? Anybody remember Pinocchio? Going to Pleasure Island? It's the shadow side. It was one of the darkest movies Disney ever created, if you think about it. What did they say when they dragged the boys to Pleasure Island? Eat what you want, drink what you want, eat candy till you throw up. It was the shadow nature. And oh God, I can't remember his name. I don't know. The head of the guy that was taking all the boys, what did he say? Well, what's going to happen to these boys when they come back? And what did he say? They don't come back, boys. What a horrible thing to say, right? This was the shadow side coming out. All the bad boys could do whatever they wanted. Let the shadow side out. Let it go wild. And that's what we're seeing on the internet. That's what we're seeing in politics. We're seeing the national shadow, the collective shadow. People feeling free to say what they would never say to someone's face. And it's always been with us. But what we learn in religious science, what we learn here are the tools to transform it, to allow it to work for us. I mean, look, I read somewhere, I don't remember where it was. Might have been that Deepak Chopra article. I don't remember. Anyway, I heard it say, in the Depression, during the Depression, the 30s in this country, we had bank robbers. We made we made folk heroes out of bank robbers, but we didn't want them to run for president. They were our shadow side. We celebrated them because nobody had anything, and they represented power for the powerless. We didn't make them a national nominee. It's the shadow side, and it appeals to us. And we have to uncover it, and we have to see it for what it is. Again, 2 volumes, 1 book. The conscious and the subconscious. So we look to interact with the shadow, nature, all the time. We look to interact with it so that we can bring it to the light. You shine the light on it, you can transform it. The idea is not eliminating the shadow, it's always there. It's always there, it's always going to be with us. But when we work with it, when we bring it up to the light, when we understand what those qualities are, what those false beliefs are, then we get to transform them. And then we get to receive the gifts that they have to offer, because they do have gifts. We bring balance to our lives when we acknowledge them. When we don't even acknowledge that, we are out of balance. And we have to bring balance to all aspects of our lives. We have to balance the light and the dark, just like we balance the feminine and the masculine, just like we balance lack and abundance, just like we balance wisdom and ignorance, just like we balance all of those qualities that exist on a continuum for us. We get to bring them into balance. We balance beauty and ugliness. We balance love and hate. They're not 2 different things. They're not opposites. They are one thing. It's all beauty. God is all beauty. But the least amount ever expressed we call ugliness. It's the qualities of God. It is the truth of who we are. And we get to bring all of this into balance. And today we're talking about the divine masculine. And we get to bring that divine masculine into balance with the divine feminine. I love the quote today about the feminine and the masculine, because this is exactly what we're talking about. The men that are irresistibly charismatic, for they embody higher consciousness, which includes the attributes of both the feminine and masculine principles. And that's what we aspire to bring those energies into balance. Why? People flock to them because they have an awakened heart. A man who demonstrates that awakened heart is irresistible, right? They emanate nurturing, and we feel healed simply in their presence. And the same is true for women who have that balanced masculine and feminine energy. They have a strength that is also appealing, because the balance, the feminine and the masculine energy, that's what we do. We must balance what is within us to be that whole and complete and perfectly self-actualized expression of spirit that we are. That we are. And the way we do it is by bringing all of this stuff to the light. Bringing it to the light and healing it and transforming it. It puts us on the path to that powerful life that we know that we are. Ernest Holmes said this in How to Use the Science of Mind. When we say there is one cause back of all manifest form, one intelligence back of all consciousness, and one spirit with all humans, we are not denying the reality of created forms or individual experience. We are affirming the unity of all life. A unity which includes all variety. Unity passes into variety and multiplicity without division. In each creation, life brings its whole nature to bear. Thus, every human's life not only has God, but all of God, back of, within, and through it. We are not some part of the life of God. Everything that God is found within you. But it's in that place where there are no opposites. There is only love. We can demonstrate as much or as little of it as we want. There is only joy. There is only love. There is only peace. And we get to demonstrate as much or as little as we want. And we call the little amount of peace chaos, but it's not. It's simply love. It's simply peace on that continuum once again. So we call it 2 volumes. I called it 2 volumes. That was the name of this talk. I called it 2 volumes, 1 book. But they are aspects. They are aspects of the one always, always. The only duality that exists is the one in our minds, the one that we bring to whatever situation or event we find ourselves in. That's why even the perpetrators God knows as whole. Even the shooter God knows as whole. Yeah, I know, even Donald Trump. Even Donald Trump God knows as whole. And that's our path, isn't it? To pray Him and to know Him and love Him as God loves them, which is in wholeness. We are always called to a higher level. We are always called to push that lever up, on the sound. We're always called to demonstrate the most of that quality that we can in any one given situation. We are called to live the higher and the greater and the better and the more expressed life of spirit that we can in any given moment. We are here to live a balanced life. Yeah, we are 2 volumes, 1 book, but we are one book. We are one life. We are the life of spirit in form on earth, and we are here to live that, to demonstrate that outrageous sense of freedom and love and joy, power and peace and unity and wholeness and wisdom, abundance and beauty and balance. We are all that. We are all that. And we demonstrate it, we manifest it, we live it to the extent we body it, we believe it, and we let it flow from us into the world, transforming the world around us. We don't have to go out and change the whole world, but it would be a nice thought. I'd like to do that. Let's go to Washington and we'll just change everything. Short of that, we can change our world. We change our little corner of it. We become the living, breathing embodiment of spirit and form in our own little corner of the world. And we change it, and it changes the people around us because we give them permission to shine, just like we're shining. We're integrated, we're balanced, we're whole. We know this, we start demonstrating it all around us in our lives. We shine, and then we give permission for those around us to shine, and then they begin to transform. And then pretty soon, our little corner of the world is Eden. It is heaven on earth, it is, because it's the only thing that's within us, is heaven on earth. We are 2 volumes of 1 book. We are masculine and feminine. We are 2 volumes of abundance. We are abundance, and we can demonstrate lack if we choose. We are 2 volumes of 1 book. We're joy. We can demonstrate sadness if we choose. We are 2 volumes of 1 book. We're love. We can demonstrate hate if we choose. We have choice. We have free will. So here's what I invite you to do. I invite you to push up the push up the volume on your life. Push up the level. Find that balance so that we're all radiating joy, more joy than sadness. We're radiating love, more love than hate. We become the place of change. We become the place of change in our own lives. And then, like that quote, people are drawn to us. Why? Because we're healed and we're whole, and that is the energy that we're giving off. We're giving off that energy of wholeness, and people feel transformed in our very presence. And little by little, person by person, consciousness by consciousness, we change the world. Are you with me? Yeah, bringing all your masculine energy and your feminine receptiveness and intuition. Are you with me? Yes. We are 2 volumes of 1 book, and the book is whole and perfect and complete, just as we are. Thank you so much.